Sister exploits my unemployment by dumping her kids on me without warning, insisting family duties trump my need for a job. I'm 20, non-binary, they slash them, and currently unemployed not by choice, just in between jobs and figuring things out. I live with my parents while job hunting and trying to figure everything out. My older sister 33F has 2 kids, 4 male and 2F, and she's a single mom. I love my niece and nephew to so much, but lately she's been leaning on me for childcare, like multiple times a week and sometimes it's all day. She'll drop them off at my parents' house, where she knows I'll be. Sometimes she won't even text me or call me to let me know. At first, I didn't mind helping. But it's becoming a full-time unpaid job. I don't have time for job applications or really anything when I'm constantly chasing toddlers around. Last week I told her, hey, I can still help sometimes, but if you want me to watch the kids regularly, I need to be paid because you know my situation. She flipped. Said I was being selfish and ungrateful since I live rent-free and don't have a real job. My parents kind of sided with her, saying I should help because she's family and that it's not like I have anything better to do. I feel bad, but I also feel like my time and energy matter, even if I'm not working a 9 to 5. I don't want to cut her off, but I'm tired of being guilted into unpaid labor. What do you guys think I should do? Eighth, or is she? Update 1. First, a quick clarification. I had mentioned in my original post that I'm non-binary and use they/them pronouns. I included that just to give context about who I am as a person. I definitely wasn't trying to spark debate or push anyone's buttons. I had no idea it would make some people upset, and honestly wasn't the point of the post in the slightest. Now for the update. After I told my sister, 33F, that I couldn't keep watching her kids constantly for free and that I needed to start setting boundaries so I could focus on job hunting, she absolutely blew TF up on me. At first, it was the stuff that we had heard before. She was calling me lazy, ungrateful, saying I live rent-free and have nothing better to do. But then she said some things to me that I don't think I'll forget. She started yelling at me in front of my parents, saying I was pathetic, a burden to everyone, and that no one would ever hire an ungrateful BTCH like me. Then she straight up said, honestly, if you can't even help your own family, you might as well just die because you're useless anyway. I just stood there shocked. I couldn't believe she said that to me. I've bent over backwards for her for months, rescheduled many different interviews and did everything I can to help her kids because I love them. But hearing those words from my own sister? It broke something in me. That kind of cruelty just doesn't go away. What makes this worse is that my parents still tried to downplay it. My mom told me she didn't mean it and that my sister is just stressed. But there's a difference between being stressed and just being plain deliberately cruel. I've never said anything even close to that to her. Even when she's dropped her kids on me without a warning or when she's made me cancel plans. The ironic part? I actually have 2 job interviews later this week. One is for a remote admin position, and the other is part-time work at a non-profit I really support and love what they are doing. I've been working hard on applications and resumes in between babysitting toddlers all week, and it's finally starting to pay off. But none of that matters to her. In her eyes, if I'm not working a full-time 9 to 5 right now, I'm nothing but a worthless sack of dollar hit. Also, for some added context which I didn't mention before, both of my parents make solid incomes between $80,000 and $120,000 a year each. So we're not in any kind of financial crisis. They were also happy when I wanted to move back in after my last job let me go. There's just this expectation that because I live at home and I'm in between jobs, I should drop everything to become a full-time nanny for free. No sort of discussion, no consideration for my time, mental health, or goals. So yeah. I still love my niece and nephew with all my heart and I still want to be part of their lives. But I don't think I can keep being treated like I don't matter. Not by my sister, and not by anyone else in my family. Update 2. I originally came here asking if I was wrong for not wanting to be my sister's full-time unpaid babysitter just because I was between jobs. Since then, everything has snowballed, but through it all, your advice helped me find some clarity and more importantly some peace. So here's the final update. First, I'm working now. That remote admin position I interviewed for? I got it and I've already been working there for a little while. It's going so great. My coworkers are supportive, the job is stable and I finally feel like I'm building something for myself. I also took your advice and paid the security deposit on my own apartment. It's nothing fancy, but it's safe, it's quiet, and it's finally something that's mine. But things with my sister got worse before they got better, or at least before they bottomed out. Somehow, she got my address even though I never gave it to her. One night it closed to midnight, I heard furious banging at my door. When I looked out the peephole, I saw her completely wasted, shouting and staggering, yelling insults I honestly didn't even have the energy to respond to. I cracked the door just a bit, worried maybe something had happened to her kids, and she got right in my face. Her breath reeked of alcohol, and she was slurring horrible things about how I was a pathetic freak who abandoned the family, how I was dead to her, how people like me don't deserve to be loved. How I was such a fuck up and that I would never go anywhere in life. It was unhinged. Then I saw her car parked crooked outside. Her kids were in the back seat. In pajamas. It was midnight. She brought them with her while she was blackout drunk and threatening me. I told her she needed to leave. That she was scaring me. She screamed in my face, stormed off the porch and came back with a rock. Before I could move, she hurled it through my front window with full force. I had been looking out the window, trying to see where her car was, and the rock hit me in the side of the face. Glass flew everywhere. I stumbled back, bleeding, stunned, and just like that she bolted to her car, still drunk, still screaming. She drove off. But she didn't get far. A few minutes later, I heard the sirens. She had crashed her car just a few blocks away. Everyone is okay. Let me say that again, the kids are okay, thank God. Some bruises, a lot of fear, but no one seriously hurt. But my sister? She's in a lot of trouble now. She got a DUI, endangering minors, and destruction of property. There's a real case building. I filed a full report, and this time I am pressing charges because what else can I do? I didn't want it to come to this. I didn't want to be the person calling the cops on my own sister, or watching her get handcuffed while her kids cried in the back of a patrol car. But she left me no choice. She put me and her own children in danger. And this time, it couldn't be ignored. And for once, my parents agree. After seeing the wreck, the police report, the hospital paperwork from where I was treated for the blow to my face, my parents finally saw it for what it was. Not stress. Not a bad night. Not family drama. This was abuse. This was unsafe. And this was something that could have ended so very differently. They apologized. Fully. Said they were wrong to enable her, wrong to guilt me, wrong to dismiss everything leading up to this. They told me I was right to set boundaries, to move out, to call for help. So Reddit, Ida, for refusing to be used, for choosing to protect myself, and for putting my safety above someone else's denial? No. I was never the asshole. I was someone trying to survive. I still love my niece and nephew more than anything. And I hope that as they grow up, they'll know I never walked away from them, I just finally stood up for myself. Thanks again to everyone who listened, validated, and encouraged me. I didn't have a lot of support at home, but somehow, you gave me the strength to change my life. I'm working, healing, and finally, I feel safe at it. I'm seeing a lot of people in the comments saying that my story is AI generated. I just want to say it's not in the slightest. This is my life, and every part of what I have said happened to me. I know the updates came quickly, but that's because so many things have been happening in a short amount of time. I've been working really hard behind the scenes to try and get out of my parents' house and finally stand on my own. For those saying it seems too fast, believe me, I get it. But I was already job hunting before my first post, and once I got hired, I jumped at the chance to get started. I also had a small retirement account I started from my last job. I never wanted to take any out of it, but I chose to take the advice you guys had given me on my last post. Update 3. I can't believe I'm even writing another update because I thought this story was at its lowest, but life apparently isn't done with plot twists. A lot happened in the past few weeks, honestly more than I could ever imagine surviving, and it's still surreal, but you've all been kind of a lifeline, so here's what went down. The fallout from my sister's arrest got complicated very quickly. That same night, my parents were at the police station with me until almost 6 a.m., first to pick up the kids and then to give statements and fill out what felt like endless paperwork. There was no more minimizing. No one said she's just stressed. No one excused a single thing. For the first time I could ever remember, my parents actually looked scared of her. I don't know how to describe it except maybe relief, too, that everything was finally laid bare, like all our family's secrets and denial and resentment just exploded in one instant. CPS got involved, fast. There was an emergency meeting the next day at my parents' house where I basically had to retell everything. Every forced babysitting, every drunken outburst, every time I'd had to be the responsible one for those kids, quietly covering like I always did. My parents, to their credit, didn't shield my sister. They didn't lie, either. They owned up to ignoring the problem and took full responsibility for enabling her. My niece and nephew are now in my parents' care temporarily, but with a huge list of conditions. CPS asked if I'd be willing to help, a formal, paid position as a family support worker, with rules, hours, and oversight, while they evaluate what's best for the kids long term. It was validating. For the first time, someone official acknowledged my time, effort, and love for those kids. I said yes, but insisted on boundaries, no overnights, clear off hours for my job, therapy support for me as I process what happened. They actually respected all of this. The difference in how I'm being treated now is night and day. Things with my sister are messy, in a way only addiction, pain, and years of denial can be. She's out on bail, my parents didn't provide it, her friend did, and there's tension there I'm staying far away from. My relationship with her at this point is almost non-existent except for the one phone call she was allowed under CPS supervision to apologize to me and the kids. It was rough. She sobbed and apologized, but you could hear the resentment bubbling underneath all the guilt. She blamed our parents, the system, her ungrateful siblings. She barely said my name at all. But the weirdest, wildest part? A few days ago, out of nowhere, my sister's ex, the kid's father, who's been mostly absent for years, comes back into the picture. Apparently, he heard about the accident because a neighbor who saw the crash posted it on Facebook and tagged the family. He's been living out of state, getting his act together. CPS contacted him as part of the investigation into potential kinship placement. Suddenly, things felt upside down. The guy we all thought had written his kids off might actually become part of their lives again. He wanted to meet with me first, of all people. We talked at a local diner for hours. He apologized, sincerely, for leaving me, and the kids, in the lurch, for letting their mom bear the brunt of everything alone. He broke down crying at one point about missing so much of their life, and he promised to do better this time, even if it's supervised visits. He's been working full-time, has a stable home, and has started therapy on his own. CPS is cautiously optimistic but is letting him slowly re-enter the kids' lives if he keeps this up. I can't even find words for what it was like seeing my nephew hug his dad for the first time since he was a baby. My niece clung to me, confused at first. She only really recognizes me, my parents, and her brother. I realized that for all the mess, these kids might finally get a shot at something resembling a stable, safe family, and that maybe, just maybe, I can step back from being the only safety net. I won't lie, I'm exhausted. Now that I have my own apartment, my job, and official paid hours watching the kids, I thought I'd feel lighter, but the trauma of everything that happened lingers. I started therapy. Sometimes at night, I still flinch when someone knocks on my door. Sometimes I catch myself worrying those kids will end up hurt, no matter what I do. But here's some wild hope. I brought the kids over to my new apartment last weekend for a morning of cartoons and blanket forts. No drama, no sudden emergencies, just laughter and quiet joy and snuggles. When my nephew proudly told me, "You got us our own safe place," something in me healed a little. I realized I get to be their fun aunt/uncle/caregiver again, on my terms, with my boundaries. No more unpaid full-day shifts because someone forgot to ask. No more being called ungrateful or useless or a burden. As for my parents, they're actually stepping up now. My mom started attending Al-Anon meetings and my dad called the family together to say, "No more secrets. We handle things in the open, no matter how angry anyone gets." There are family therapy sessions scheduled in a sense that everyone's trying to heal for real, not just pretend. My sister is in a mandated rehab program as part of her court agreement. I don't know what will happen between us long term, or if reconciliation is really possible, but I know I won't ever let her treat me like that again. So that's the crazy, messy, semi-hopeful new chapter. The kids might go to their dad, or stay with my parents, with me as their safe, fun cousin mentor, or, maybe even one day return to their mom if she seriously gets her act together. For the first time ever, all of those options sound better than what we had before, because now, I finally get to choose my own life, guilt-free. Thank you to everyone who told me I wasn't worthless, let me grieve my awful family dynamic, and rooted for me and those kids. The worst night of my life cracked everything open. But sunlight's finally getting in. Update 4. First things first, CPS made a decision about the kids, and the outcome left all of us reeling. After 3 weeks of home checks, supervised visits, and approximately 5,000 emails between social workers, lawyers, and therapists, they decided to grant primary temporary custody to the kid's dad. Yep. The same guy who vanished years ago is now attending parenting classes, has a therapist, and a new job at a logistics warehouse. He FaceTimed the kids every day for a week under supervision, then started picking them up twice weekly for short, monitored outings. I went along for the first visit, seriously unsure if my nephew would even go near him. But to my complete shock, he ran straight into his arms, grinning ear to ear. My niece. Took longer, but by the end of the hour she was holding his hand. Watching all this was emotional whiplash. For years, Dad was kind of a fairy tale villain in our house, someone you only mentioned with a sigh, and whose absence explained things but rarely got fixed. Now, in a single month, he's morphing into something between a hopeful stranger and, possibly, an actual parent. My parents took the news about as well as can be expected. We had a blowout argument. My dad insisted blood is blood and tried to convince CPS my home would be more stable until my sister recovered. My mom, credit where it's due, finally put her foot down and said, "If we want these kids happy, we can't try to control everything anymore." The therapist backed her up. It hit me that for the first time, everyone in my family was genuinely trying to do what's healthiest for the children, not just protecting our crumbling family image. In the middle of all this, my sister's court date came up. I was subpoenaed to testify, which, yeah, was as awful as you'd imagine. She never met my eyes. Her lawyer tried to downplay the rock/window incident as an isolated act in a moment of mental collapse. I told the truth, about the months she leaned on me, about her drinking, the manipulation, the danger to her kids. It was the most nauseating hour of my life, and when it was over I sobbed in the courthouse bathroom until my mom found me. The judge ordered mandatory rehab and continued the no-contact order, but said reunification isn't off the table if she completes the program and passes regular screens. On my way out of the courtroom, my sister's friend, the one who bailed her out, caught up with me in the hallway, looking miserable. She pressed a wrinkled note into my hand. Later, when I opened it at home, I found my sister's handwriting. The whole note was basically, "I hate myself. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. Tell the kids I love them. Take care of yourself." I guess it shouldn't have meant anything after everything, but it did crack my heart open just a little bit. I still don't know what to do with those feelings. Meanwhile, my new life, the admin job, is going better than I dared hope. One of my coworkers found out about my turbulent month after I missed a staff meeting. Thank God for Zoom and gentle HR people. To my surprise, she wasn't remotely judgy. She offered to meet for coffee after work, and I ended up blurting out the whole story. She said, "You know, you could probably help a lot of people if you ever wanted to share this. Most folks have no idea what it's really like to be the responsible one in a family in crisis." She put me in touch with a local support group for adult siblings of addicts, and I attended my first meeting last Friday. It was cathartic and weird and strangely hopeful all at once. 2 other people there had nearly identical stories about siblings dumping childcare and everyone treating that as if it were normal. Some gentle, and not so gentle. Prodding from my therapist led me to email my niece's daycare director. Remember when I said I'd been the backup nanny for months? Turns out they actually remembered me. The director offered me a part-time consulting gig to redesign their after-school art curriculum as a side hustle. Now I get to spend time with kids drawing dinosaurs, and I actually get paid. It's small, but for the first time in my life I feel seen for my skills, not just my capacity to put out family fires. It's wild. But the craziest part, and what I still can't wrap my head around, is what happened last Saturday morning. My parents brought my niece and nephew for a visit since everyone agreed it'd be good for them to keep a connection with me, even if they're mostly with their dad now. When my sister's ex picked them up, he hung back a little after buckling them in and said, sort of quietly, "I want you to know you saved these kids' lives. I know we're not anything, but if you ever want to be part of their lives, you always have a place. Family's bigger than blood." For the first time, I believed it. I wish I could say I'm magically healed, or that my family is now functional, but the reality is much more complicated. There are nights I dream about that window shattering. I flinch if I hear raised voices when I walk past neighbors. I wonder sometimes if I'll ever be able to fully relax. But therapy helps. Having an apartment, income, and firm boundaries helps. And every time my nephew texts me a dinosaur emoji, his secret code for "I love you," I breathe a little easier. TLDR, the kids are with their dad now, my parents are finally getting healthy, my sister is genuinely trying to recover, and for the first time I feel like I'm living my own life, not just picking up pieces. I get to choose how involved I want to be, not because someone guilted me into it, but because I want those 2 little humans to know how much I love them. Update 5. I honestly thought things would finally level off after everything that's happened: arrests, court dates, CPS, my sister vanishing into rehab, the kids settling, tentatively, for now, with their dad. But nope. Real life doesn't grant you a neat epilogue as soon as you finally draw a boundary or cry in a courthouse bathroom. Turns out, every time you try to reclaim your own power, the world throws a new kind of weird at you. Here's what I mean. The last update ended with me working, in therapy, semi-cautiously happy, making dinosaur art with kids and getting paid for actual skills. What I didn't mention, in the last week or 2, my phone's been blowing up every single day with a new source of drama. Friends of friends. Distant cousins. Neighbors. People I barely know messaging me on Facebook and WhatsApp. Most weirdly, some old family acquaintances, one of whom I haven't seen since I was probably 12, actually, showed up at my new apartment door, with a half-cold casserole, asking if I could take in their son for a weekend so the parents can get away. Apparently, at some point, maybe while my life was imploding, word got out that I'm great with kids and helping family through crisis and have experience working with at-risk families, and now I'm getting asked to solve every problem for everyone who ever met me or my parents. It's like someone put up a sign that says Saint of Lost Children / emotional free labor, apply here. At first, I just laughed it off and turned people down. Then I started to get angry, not at the people, okay, sometimes a little at the people who DM'd me at midnight about urgent dog sitting, but at myself, for how quickly my old panic-flavored reflexes kicked in. I almost gave in, twice. Old habits, right? You see someone struggling, you drop everything, you let your dinner get cold and your work slip, and you stop filling out your own forms so you can hug someone else's kid. But this time, when I started to waver, my therapist called me on it. If you've never had a therapist look you in the eye on a Wednesday night and ask, as gently as possible, are you helping because you want to, or because you're still afraid of what happens if you say no? Well, I don't recommend it. The realization knocked the wind out of me. I sat with that for an hour, then texted the daycare director, yes, the one from before, and asked if she knew any resources for setting boundaries and helping professions that aren't really your job. She sent me a book list, and also invited me to present at their next parent workshop, on learning to say no without guilt. Life is nothing if not ironic. Meanwhile, my relationship with the kid's dad has gotten unexpectedly normal. The kids are thriving. My nephew runs up every time I visit his dad's house for movie night. My niece holds my hand and asks when I'll draw with her. Their dad, the one who basically disappeared for years, has started inviting me to game nights and even texted me for advice on how to fix a toothpaste in hair situation. The fact that he's even asking instead of assuming I'll fix everything? Progress. Sometimes when we're sitting with both kids snuggled between us, I get a glimpse of what a functional extended family could actually be. It's both surreal and a little bittersweet. As for my parents, my mom's still in Al-Anon, still astoundingly consistent for the first time in my life. My dad built a wooden sandbox for the kids in his backyard and spends most Saturday mornings reading articles on trauma-informed parenting. The family therapy sessions have gone from teeth-gritting silences and explosions to these oddly productive, even funny, semi-awkward check-ins, like we're all learning to be ourselves around each other for the first time, instead of slipping into old roles. I half expect us to break into a musical number about emotional growth any day now. Now, my sister. I debated whether to share this, because I'm still processing how I feel. She completed her first stretch in court-mandated rehab. I got a short, polite message from her rehab counselor asking if I'd be open to a family session via video. Every cell in my body wanted to say no. But I remembered the note she sent from jail, so I agreed, on my terms. I would listen, but no promises. She came onto the call looking thinner but clearer. Honestly? It was awkward. She began with a script, literally, she read out what she wrote, which sounded like her counselor helped draft it. But then her voice broke and she threw out the papers and started actually talking. She didn't minimize the damage. She owned what she did. She didn't beg for forgiveness, didn't ask for more involvement with her kids, just asked if there was a way, in the future, I could let her try to earn trust again. All I could say, honestly, was, I wish things hadn't happened the way they did. I wish you'd seen me as your sibling and not your backup plan. I hope you heal. For the kids, and for you. And that was it. It wasn't catharsis. But it was. Progress? I got off the call feeling less shaken than I expected. So what's crazy and new? Well, if you'd told me 6 months ago that my family would be in therapy, my parents would be actively working on being healthy grandparents, my sister would be alive and sober, for now, and her kids would actually have a shot at knowing both healthy parents and a network of loving adults, including me, with boundaries, I'd have said you were out of your mind. But here we are. And the wildest twist, with the encouragement of my therapist and the daycare director, I started journaling all of this, not just here but privately, deeper, raw. I submitted one piece anonymously to a local zine on chosen family and community care. They published it. They want me to run a workshop next month, building your boundaries after family trauma. Me. The useless bum who couldn't say no. For the first time, I'm getting invited places not because I'll save someone's day, but because people actually value my voice. Sometimes I feel like I'm still holding my breath, waiting for the next disaster, but now when it comes, I'll know it's not my job to fix it all. I can say no. I can say yes, sometimes, if I want. But only if it's for love, not out of fear. Most days, even the hard ones, that finally feels like enough. Update 6. I kept meaning for this to be the last update, but life keeps refusing to let me quietly fade into the background. Somehow, every time I brace for the next aftershock, the universe just throws more characters onto the stage and one-upping dramatic reveals. I guess that's what happens when your story goes from passive babysitter to accidental family whistleblower to very hesitant local advocate. This month, the strangest new thing happened. For the first time, the chaos wasn't coming from inside my family, it was outside, and, for a while, unexpectedly for us. Things are finally stabilizing for my niece and nephew with their dad, and the family calendar is filled with joint events that are, dare I say, shockingly normal. We did a group pumpkin patch visit and nobody argued about sunscreen or screamed about lost shoelaces. Progress. But almost as soon as one fragile truce was found, my parents were blindsided by rumors at their church, stuff like maybe, my sister's ex, shouldn't be raising those poor kids, wouldn't it be better for their responsible sibling to have them? Or what about op, hasn't op basically mothered them this whole time? Suddenly, I was getting approached by strangers offering sympathy, their opinions on my generosity, and, strangest of all, job offers. Literally, one of my dad's friends offered to make a call if I wanted a proper secretary role, so you don't get distracted by kid drama. I don't know if you've ever stood in a Target checkout line and had a woman you only vaguely remember from your high school's PTA say, "We're all so proud of you, but you must feel lost since your sister's girls were given away." But if you have, then you'll know just how hard I had to fight not to start roaring with laughter, or maybe scream. It was like everyone wanted a piece of the new and improved humble martyr version of me that floated around town gossip. I started getting Facebook tags for every local lost animal, GoFundMe, help needed post within 5 zip codes. My therapist just sighed when I brought it up. Your boundary muscle is getting stronger because it's finally being tested by people you don't have a lifetime of patterns with. But the thing that really flipped my world upside down came one rainy Wednesday evening, on a night when my parents insisted on a family check-in dinner with everyone willing to show up. My niece and nephew had been invited, with their dad's blessing, and CPS checking in afterward. And, unexpectedly, my sister too, joining by speakerphone from transitional sober housing. None of us knew how to prepare, but my parents nervously set 2 extra plates and my dad even made mac and cheese from scratch, not a box, trying to create a sense of celebration. Here's the part I still can't believe happened. Halfway through dinner, my niece looked straight at my parents and asked, with the clarity only a 4-year-old can muster, "Grandma? Do you like having all of us together now?" My mom's eyes welled up. She admitted, for the first time, out loud, ever, that she didn't always like it before, that it felt scary and broken, and she was sorry for trying to hide it. On the phone, my sister got really quiet for a long time. Then she said, in a voice barely above a whisper, I blamed everyone for how alone I felt, but no one could fix me except me. I'm still lonely, but I don't want to make other people lonely just because I hurt. It felt like a piano chord had finally resolved. My dad joked about how he was the grumpy one and should have listened sooner, and while we all half laughed, I saw my parents share a look of genuine relief. My nephew got bored and demanded a dinosaur cookie, and in that moment I realized, this is what healing looks like: awkward, ugly, full of pauses, but real. But the biggest shocker, after months of keeping things strictly platonic, game nights, popcorn, boundaries, etc., the kid's dad texted me after the dinner, "You always knew what to do for them." I'm still learning. Maybe you could, I don't know. Teach me to be someone they can count on without you having to do it all? I nearly dropped my phone. We talked at a coffee shop the next night. He actually apologized again, not just for years past, but for watching me burn out and not stepping up way sooner. He admitted he was afraid that no matter what he did, I'd always be the real parent figure, and he'd never measure up. I told him honestly, you don't have to be everything. You only need to show up now and keep trying. He asked if I'd want to keep being around, not as a fallback, not as the default, but as someone who actually matters to all of us, for any reason you decide is right. There was a pause that felt huge and gentle, and I realized, finally, all that energy I spent trying to prove my worth, to my family or anyone else, was finally being spent where it belonged, on myself. So, now, here's the really wild part. The local zine that published my essay about family boundaries emailed me a week ago to ask if I'd be their guest editor for a special edition on rebuilding after crisis. I almost said no, imposter syndrome, until my daycare director friend and my therapist ganged up and insisted, "You have more experience than half the experts in these pamphlets." That same week, my admin job's HR lead asked if I'd be on a new diversity and mental health subcommittee. Turns out, word about my quiet, firm, respectful boundaries is getting around even at work. I hesitated, but I remembered something my nephew told me, as he drew a brontosaurus last Friday: it's okay to say yes, but not to everything, okay? My sister's journey is still hers, nothing linear, nothing certain. But she sent my parents a photo of her 1-year sobriety chip last week, looking frazzled but grinning, and, for the very first time, she ended her text with, "Tell them I'm proud of all of you." No manipulation, no pressure. I don't know if our family will ever be normal. I'm not sure anyone really is, but these days, I don't feel like the backup plan or the scapegoat or the last resort babysitter. I'm just me. Sometimes I still help. Sometimes I say no. I see the kids every few weeks. My nephew met my new friend group at the zine launch, and my niece now teaches my parents about big feelings after therapy. We're all starting over, and it's weird, and hard, and a little bit hilarious. For anyone reading this who's still where I was, feeling like you can't escape unpaid emotional labor or that family will never change, sometimes it takes burning everything down, and then being so surprised by what grows in the ash. We're not perfect, but we're honest now. Even when strangers knock on my door with a casserole, I can politely say, "Not today, but here's a resource that might help," and mean it. If there's another surprise, I'll keep you posted. But for now, I'm building a life, on purpose, by my choice, and, for the first time, with hope that my story doesn't end with someone else's crisis.